Hey everybody, it's me Ashish, and before we begin, I just want to give a quick thank you to everybody listening, watching, and supporting the podcast. It means the world to us, and we're so appreciative. I just want to let you guys know that you guys can always ask us questions, give us segment ideas, and keep up with the fun, all at AshishandFriends.com. We're on Twitter at AshishandPals, we're on Instagram at AshishandFriends, and hey, we're even on Facebook, facebook.com/AshishandFriendsPod. If you're watching this video, please go ahead and give it a like and subscribe to the channel. All that following and liking and subscribing will help us grow and keep going, so we appreciate it so much. And once again, thank you, and I hope you enjoy the episode. Yes, welcome to another great episode of the Ashish and Friends podcast. Since school is starting back up again, we thought it'd be a great time to talk about our favorite school memories from K through 12 and college as well. As always, I'm your host, Ashish. You can catch me on Instagram and on Twitter at AshishAri. I'm joined by my longtime friends and co-hosts. We've got Shahan at Shahan Jayaraja. We've got Ryan, and we've got Dev at Superlaser. So let's get started. We got some questions ready. We might add some along the way, but so what was your favorite class growing up? Whether it's K through 12 or in college, what was the favorite class, whether it was really enjoyable or you learned something that changed your life?
My favorite class was my junior and senior year of high school, IB Math HL with Mr. Vandershee for two reasons. The first reason is I just really liked his style of teaching. I like math, so it went together. And because he did a flipped classroom, so we did like our work outside the classroom, and then we did our practice problems inside the classroom. So it was really fun. And secondly, I felt like not only was he a good teacher teaching the material, but he was a good teacher in terms of advice and helping people out with like life problems as well, growing as a person. And he's a great teacher, and I still talk to him. He's a great mentor and role model. So that's why that was my favorite class.
Yeah, and he just got his American citizenship.
There
So
you
shout
go.
out to Mr. Vandershee. Yeah,
Congrats
I
to
had
him.
him. He was a fantastic teacher. My other favorite teacher in high school was Mr. Brock. He was really amazing. So I had them both the same year. I was always a big math guy as well growing up. I think my favorite class I ever took was probably game theory in college. I'm like the kind of person who loves to like analyze decision making, so game theory was like right up my alley, and I really, really loved that.
Yeah, that's a good question. There's a couple different directions to go here, obviously. You know, there's sort of the favorite class, the class that you feel like you learn the most from. I think that for me, my favorite class was, I'm gonna go with U.S. history. And actually, I'm gonna take it a step further. I'm gonna go with the U.S. history post 1877 class that I took at Baylor. So for me, it was taught by, oh man, I can't remember what the professor's name was, but he is a tremendous professor. He's one of the leaders of the history department at Baylor. And for me, like, I am all about that, right? Because history post 1877 is where you start to transition from here's how maybe this all started to like, okay, this is how politics happened, right? Like, here's the direct line of like, we're at the Civil War, we go after that, here's how it happened, here's how we got where we are today. And so for me, a lot of the history classes that I had taken before were wide ranging. And so there really wasn't a focus on modern history. There wasn't any sort of focus on really, I mean, I think that when we were in school, I think that civil rights movement is usually when it stopped. So for me, I loved getting to go past that. I loved getting to learn about, Watergate and learned about how terrible Nixon was and learned about all the mistakes that Clinton made. And that's something that I hadn't really learned before in a classroom setting. I tried to learn about it on my own. And so for me to be, Dr. Sorrell, that's what his name is, Dr. Sorrell. So to get to learn it from somebody who is really educated, is an expert on the civil rights movement, which is my favorite time to learn about history. That for me was my favorite class.
Awesome. That's awesome to hear. We were talking about history. You mentioned history. Dev mentioned Mr. Brock. I did AP Euro history with him. I'm actually going to go down that same path. For me, APUSH in high school, I was taught by Miss Garnier, and she was fantastic. Like, I have a huge thing with history, learning history, but the way she taught everything to us, and she just made it so interesting. I just wanted to keep learning more, which is, I think, important, right? Like the storytelling, she really set the background, is really amazing, and just every day she gave an amazing lecture, and you're just like so zeroed in on it. And for that, I'm super appreciative. Very interesting subject. Kind of wish I went back and listened to those lectures again. And we're
Yeah,
talking about
sorry. That's like exactly how I felt about Mr. Brock. So it's funny. It's funny to hear that CHS had like a stacked history teacher roster, because like I was a history like hater. Like I thought it was like useless to learn this stuff. Like growing up, I definitely didn't understand why. And like sitting in Mr. Brock's class for the first time in 12th grade, right? So I went through 12 years of learning history, hating it. And then I sat in Mr. Brock's class in 12th grade, and it's like turned me into a history buff.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Some other famous history teacher. I don't know if you like. I know you hate him, but Tim Dixon. He's very popular at CHS.
No, I love him. I think he's a great guy.
He wrote one of my rec letters.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I didn't take history with him, unfortunately. I took him. He was my coach for Ag Tech, right? But that's the same thing. Like he taught us 6 subjects, right? It's not only one subject. And the way he did it every time, even though we spent hours after like every single day on weekends, he just made it so interesting. You were just so zoned in on it, and you're like, I love this stuff. I wish I could just keep listening to things. He's always entertaining, and I'm definitely appreciative of that. And without moving forward real quick, I got to give a shout out to Senior Melville, our Spanish teacher. Yeah, Ryan's taken him like 3 years in a row at high school.
We haven't. We're gonna get to teachers, aren't we? That's a separate question.
Oh, right. Well, we'll move to that. All right. Good point. Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the favorite teachers then. Favorite teachers or favorite professors? Who are they?
Oh, why don't you talk about Melville? You already got the ball rolling.
Sounds great. Yeah. So I had freshman year Spanish with him. Awesome dude, amazing artist. He actually listens to the podcast, so I had to give him a shout out for that. Throughout the years, even I just see him in the hallway. He's always checking in on me and really supportive throughout the whole process of high school. And even afterwards, he's hit me up and we talk pretty often. So definitely appreciate him. And I have to give a shout out to my professor, Jennifer Johnson at UTD. She taught accounting, which can be really hard. I'm not talking about financial accounting, the very boring stuff, but I actually took 3 classes with her because she was just spectacular. And she really opened a lot of doors for me and was really supportive and actually like really brought in my interest in accounting.
Segue off of Ashish here. Yes, I had Senior Melville my freshman year of high school, my sophomore year of high school, my junior year of high school, and my senior year of high school. So I don't know how many people can say you had a teacher for all 4 years of high school, but I'm proud to say I had him all 4 years. He taught me the Rubik's Cube. He's teaching me the guitar. The guy is very smart. And he taught me Spanish. I used to know Spanish.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's a lot of stuff that isn't a language.
And then the second teacher I'm going to give a shout out to is one of my pharmacotherapy teachers in pharmacy, which is a very advanced term for drugs related to body systems. Dr. Duhan, he's very young and he was very smart and he taught in a way I'm like, this is practical. This is how I can apply it when I practice. And a lot of that knowledge I took with me. He also wrote me some reference letters and I'm giving him a shout out. And the last one is my organic chemistry professor, Dr. Iverson. Let me tell you, I had him only 1 year and it was my second year of organic chemistry. Second semester. My first semester was brutal. I didn't get it and it didn't make sense. Literally 2 weeks of his class, I was like, this makes sense. I got it. And I totally dominated that class. So shout out to him. And he also has a cure for an HIV vaccine or something. He's part of that. He's very famous in that regard, and he likes marathons. He's an avid runner.
So we already talked about all of my favorite teachers from high school, which were like Melville and Dixon, Brock and Vandershee. So I do really love them. Shout out to Professor Melville, of course. He's pretty active on Twitter, isn't he?
Yeah, he follows the page on Twitter and on Instagram, and yeah, he's still on Twitter. So
yeah, he was easily like the most fun class that I ever took was with Senor Melville. I didn't learn that much Spanish, but that's mostly on me, considering the fact that like if you don't study the vocabulary, it turns out you'll never learn the language. Uh,
I'm still
who would
stuck.
have guessed that?
I'm still stuck on week 1 of Spanish 1. To be honest, I took 3 years in high school. Still at hola igualmente. I know one line, El burro sabe más que tú, which is a poem we read in his class. So
Yes,
thanks,
yes.
Senior Melville.
That's my favorite line.
Yeah, so I probably had a slightly different experience than you guys, considering I went to like a very small college. Like my college is actually smaller than our high school. So I went to like a really small college, so I had like a lot of great teachers like all throughout. So like my physics 1 teacher, I really loved her. Her name was Dr. Kirkpatrick. Like for like coming into college, there was not like a more reasonable teacher. Like she was always like understood what it was like to go through college, how stressful it was, and for like an intro, like in your first semester, that's all you want, really. And then the other best teacher I had in college is Dr. Evans. She was absolutely amazing. So she taught. I had 2 classes with her. One was probability and statistics, and the other one was Six Sigma. And I loved her prob stats class so much, and I guess she liked me too, that she had asked me to like grade for that class. So I would grade for her, and I literally did it just because like I actually didn't need the money at all. I just did it because I was like, oh, you asked me to do this as a favor to you, and I loved you so much that I'm gonna grade for you. We did Six Sigma. She let me take that class and grade for it at the same time, which was super cool. Yeah, I really love Dr. Evans. She's an amazing, amazing teacher. She's one of the people that, like, every time I go back to my school, I have to make sure to visit her.
That's awesome.
Well-
Setting up your own curve for the exams. That sounds really.
Yeah, I would grade the homework, right? Not
Yeah,
the
no,
exams.
I'm just
Yeah.
messing with you.
So I actually think this is an interesting question. So like, to you guys, what makes a good teacher or professor? Like, because there's a lot of different qualities that I think that you can judge a teacher or professor on, but what in your guys' eyes makes a good teacher or professor?
So to me, I think the like most important thing is that like they have to be passionate about what they're teaching in. Like if that's not there, I'm just never gonna like get it. I think that's the first thing, and then 2, just like the ability to be understanding and empathetic to students is like what really like takes a good teacher and makes them great. Because I think when you're able to get into the student's mindset, you can teach a lot better because you can understand what they're thinking.
For me, it's what Dev said and their teaching style. If the teaching style fits me, I just learn better in the way they teach the practice. And then the second thing is also just being very personable as a teacher and being able to relate, just like Dev said, as like what students are and how to approach them. And this isn't like a personal life because Mr. Vandershee and Melville and these teachers I had in high school helped me also on a personal level as well as an academic level. So I think those variables also add in, as well as Dean Duhan and and also Ginsburg and a lot of other teachers I've had I can mention.
Yeah, so don't want to reiterate whatever both they said, but that's exactly it. You have to be passionate about the subject. I mean, obviously it's a little hard when you're teaching math and shit, but like especially like history
Whoa,
and like all
whoa,
these other
whoa.
electives. I'm just saying you can't be like 2 + 2 = 4, right? Like you don't get that excitement when you're talking about history or science. You're like you get a good understanding of it, right? Even accounting, I took analysis and design of accounting systems. That sounds horrible. It was actually really exciting, and it's just because Professor Johnson was just very passionate about it, very like open, and you could really interact with her and ask the questions, and you didn't feel like you're stupid for asking questions.
Dude, I'm not gonna let you just call out my favorite subject like that, dude. The amount of creativity that comes into
Yeah.
math is like crazy. I love
So-
math. Math is so much fun to be passionate about.
So that's funny that you mentioned math specifically because I think for me, I mean, again, there's a lot of teachers and professors I could mention. I think for me, when I think of this immediately, I think back to my middle school math teacher, Mrs. Goddard, and so there were 2 things that I really loved about her classes and her teaching style. And first of all was that she was like very clear that she believed in you. I think that's a very important quality in a teacher that I don't think that many do very well. Coming into a class, treating everybody like adults. And no, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like it was a GT math class, right? Like it was a gifted and talented class. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that like, there's I'm not going to pretend that you can treat every class like that, or I understand why teachers don't. But I think that when you go into a classroom and you feel like the teacher is treating you like an adult, that like they feel like they believe in you, they're willing to invest in you, and they're able to communicate how much potential they think you have. I think that that's something that that sometimes teachers don't do very well. Is just sort of being like, I feel like I'm helping to set you up. I'm feeling like you have potential to do great things. And a lot of teachers are just content sort of teaching the subject and going home, right? Instead of kind of investing in their students. And the other thing about her was that with math, I felt like one thing that she did really well, she was my Algebra 1 teacher, was that she was really good at trying to tie things in to the real world, right? Because one of the things with math, especially, I think, is that especially when you're not sort of doing, I mean, Dev's a computer engineer, right? Like he does math.
I'm a software engineer.
Right, right. And so like
which is even more math.
Right. So that's like a central part of your job, right?
Yeah.
I'm a journalist, right? Like math isn't a central part of my job, but somebody who can come in and show that the subject is relevant to you and is relevant to your life, I think that that's something that really elevates the subject. Because for me, again, that's kind of what it was about history, right? Is that, hey, when we had the Gilded Age, look at the comparisons to now, right? Like being able to draw those lines between what you're teaching and what people are experiencing in life, and what they will experience in life, I think is one of the most valuable things that a teacher can do. And I felt like Miss Goddard really did that at a high level. And the other teacher that I would mention is my high school U.S. history teacher when I was in private school for 1 year, Miss Morozek. And again, she kind of did the same thing where she took history a step further than I'd ever sort of been taught before. And on top of that, she was somebody who really was willing to put in the work with me, even though I wasn't always a very good student.
That's so well put, Shahan. When you're talking about a teacher or a professor investing in you, that is the total truth. Because, growing up I think you see that more in college, right? Your university where it's more like even playing field. Because I think in some schools, like you said, the GT, the top 10%, the top 1%, you see the teachers like, okay, yeah, I love this student because they're genius. They're getting A's. Whereas like, some other teachers prefer the class clown, right? Or whatever it is. But like, that's what I liked about Professor Johnson is like, okay, I might not have been making A pluses. I was like, B plus, A minus, but I was giving my effort. I was trying to learn and she believed in that and she believed in me. So I definitely was appreciative of that.
I think that kind of like, I don't want to go too much on a tangent, but that kind of leads to like a bigger flaw that I see like with the education system in general. Like I didn't believe in myself as a like student for so long of my like upbringing that like getting to college where like it was a small college and they really like worked to make sure that as many students that attended this college could graduate, like it really that confidence let me become an even better learner that like I wish that was invested in me from the beginning.
Right. And one thing that's funny for me, right, is that I ended up getting a journalism degree. And for me, even though I like to think that I'm pretty good at journalism, right? Like I think that I'm in a good situation. I've gotten, whatever. But like a lot of my journalism professors did not invest in me, right? Like, which is kind of a funny thing. Is like you can even be skilled in something, you can even have potential in something, and being in a bad situation can still almost ruin the experience for you. Because like, for example, actually, can you guys guess what my worst grade in Baylor journalism was? Just what's a subject, a random subject of journalism that you think might relate to me?
Sports journalism.
Sports journalism?
Close. I made a C minus, which is too low to get credit for the class in your major in magazine and feature writing. I am now a magazine and feature writer. Like, so the person who's teaching a class can really make or break your experience, and also make or break your confidence in the subject.
For sure, like you said, that's actually something you're doing now, right? Like maybe other people in your shoes would give up. They'd be like, I'm making C's. Obviously, I'm not getting what I'm supposed to do. This can't be a career for me, right? But yeah, that's totally right. I think we should definitely dive into this, later on. Definitely a bigger issue for sure. All right, so next up, we've got extracurricular activities. Whether it's through high school or college, what did you do outside of the classes that really stood out to you? What did you enjoy the most?
Yeah, so for me, I was a big like sports guy, right? So I always loved like basketball, and I did cross country in high school. I did intramurals in college, and I did really love that. But I think if there was one activity that I would do every year that really stood out to me, it was like a really unlikely one, which is that one of my friends, Savannah, had asked me that like, hey, they needed people for this 24-hour play festival. And what it was is that in 24 hours you needed to write and direct a short play, basically like a 5 to 10 minute play, and like write, direct, and act basically in the play. Sometimes, um, and I was supposed to just be an actor, so like we showed up, and then basically we give them 12 hours to write, and then they would come and tell you what to do. But one of the writers was sick, so from the first year I was a writer, and that was like insanely fun. Like like sitting in a room, like under so much pressure, trying to like produce something that's funny and will entertain people, is like it was just an awesome experience that I never would have gotten if it wasn't for Savannah. So thank you so much, Savannah. And it was easily my favorite extracurricular activity. I looked forward to it so much every year.
I think for me that an obvious one that I did in middle and high school was band. I did not care for marching band. That was bullshit. That was not my thing. But I loved, so I played the oboe, if people don't know. And I don't know, I loved getting kind of that structure. I loved getting to learn an instrument. It came very naturally to me. And I loved sort of the difficulties of playing in an ensemble, of having to rely on the people around me, and also I liked that I was good at it and got credit for it. So that was obviously not bad too. And I think that the thing for me that I loved about some of this stuff is that like I don't play the oboe professionally, right? Like I don't do this professionally. I love that I got to do something for 7+ years that was just fun. That was just for fun. And it did, I'm sure, help me in some ways when I was applying to colleges and stuff like that. But if I assume that most of the people who are listening to this show are probably in college or past college. But one thing that I really encourage people when when they're growing up, when they're in middle and high school is I think that it was really great for me to try different things that I wouldn't have tried otherwise.
Well, I'm gonna segue off of that, Shohan, because one of the things I did in middle school and high school and college was also band, and I was not talented, not nearly close as your talent, but I had
It's
fun.
true. It's true.
I had fun. I might have been the last band, might have played the easy music, but I had fun and I got to experience things I wouldn't experience nonetheless. Going to St. Patrick's Day Parade, playing Carnegie Hall, playing in the Symphony Hall in Chicago, playing in Dallas Cowboys Thanksgiving game with Kelly Clarkson, playing in the last game of the Dallas Cowboys Stadium in Irving before they closed it, sending in college, sending off Mac Brown, sending off our president. Uh, I mean, there's a lot of great things, a lot of great football games there. I mean, a lot of great opportunities that stem from it. So I really enjoyed it, and I'm really thankful I got those opportunities, even though I wasn't very talented. So you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. Believe in yourself.
Well, we got.
I don't know, man. It sounds like as soon as you got to Texas, everybody started getting fired. So I don't know, man.
Yeah, we got a full
Starts
band
here
resume.
is a world.
We got a full band resume from Ryan. One thing I did in middle school only was in band. And, I'm just gonna touch on this a little bit. I played French horn. It's just a fun thing to do. Going on these trips to San Antonio and being in the concerts and seeing your family out there and hanging out with friends. Like I made so many friends throughout band is a really cool thing to do. In high school, I did a lot of clubs and stuff, but never really did like a leadership role. But in college, I was part of TEDxUTD, and me and Ryan enjoyed TED Talk videos. So like being able, I became a vice president in my second year. So what up, son? Anyways, I really enjoyed just the whole process of planning things. I love planning things. So planning this huge conference at the end of the year, finding these speakers, finding the sponsors, finding where we're going to get food from, and all these things was just really exciting. And I made really good friends through that. And I got to interact with someone really talented. Her name's Dr. Seema Yasmin. At the time, she was a professor on campus. And she actually teaches at Stanford now. She had been on CNN at the time. She had been like the person on CNN talking about Ebola when it was in Dallas. And the fact that we had like such a huge talent like at UTD and we got her to speak at a conference was spectacular. She's obviously a doctor, and we got to see her at the Dallas Morning News, because she's there in the building in downtown Dallas. So going in there and getting to meet all those people and everything was really quite an experience. So I'm definitely glad I did that, and it's something I'm going to hold on to forever.
Yeah, one thing, not to take us off too much in a different direction, but one thing. Granted, I'm the married one of the group, right? So like, I have to think about this sort of thing, just in terms of the future. But like, for me, one thing that's been difficult is like, we went to Coppell. It was a giant ass school where like you kind of couldn't do things unless you really did them, right? Like for us, I did band because I was like really good at it, and like that was all my time, right? That was like all of the time that I got to do until sophomore year they let me quit marching band, and then I got to do a couple more things. But it's like it's very, very hard to both be in band and play a sport, right? At Coppell because of how intense it is. I know that your brother did it, Ryan. I understand, but most people can't do stuff like that. So I'm curious. What would you want your kids someday, if you want kids, obviously, to be in a situation where they are in a place like Coppell that's sort of so intense, or would you want them to be in a smaller environment where maybe they'd get the opportunity to do more things, even if they don't have like the world-class band program, the giant football facilities?
I think it really just depends on the activity, the age, the person that's doing it, right? And I think that's kind of one of those interesting conundrums because, like, I think when you're talking about like little kids, you obviously want them doing everything to try to find out what they love. When you get to high school, you do get kind of where you're like already so passionate about one thing, it's okay to pursue it a little harder.
Right. No, I think for me, the tough thing just became like, when I was in band, like, I feel like, damn, I kind of wish I'd been able to do debate, I think I would have really liked debates. That kind of sucks, right?
Yeah, it does suck.
And like you say, I knew that I was passionate about playing the oboe and about band and music, but like, I didn't even get a chance to do some of these things because the moment I walked in the door, like I couldn't do act tech, for example, right? It's like Ashish did, it kind of sucks that you kind of had to pick a lane so quickly.
And stick to it.
Right.
Yeah,
I think go ahead.
I would kind of agree with that, but also I think that having somewhere where you can try multiple options, because I always think of school, whether high school or college, as more of an experiential stage of your life where you can start dabbling in different areas and figure out where your interests lie and what you're passionate about. So I feel like there's pros and cons of both sides of that. Somewhere where they have really good programs and things, but you have to invest your time in one program. Where somewhere may have a lot, may not be as strong, but you can dabble and figure out what you want, but may not get the level of attention. So I mean, it depends. Like Deb said, and I think it depends on where you're at, as where your children are at. They're really invested in one area or not.
Yeah, so like Shahan touched on, I should have mentioned this when I was talking about extracurriculars, right? Like Act Deck took up my whole senior year, really, right? Like 2 hours after school every day, on weekends, 6 hours on Saturdays. Like this is like mandatory every single week. And I was part of quite a few things in high school, like Spanish club and blah 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 blah. So I couldn't really do anything in those, right? Like I was stuck with this. So yeah, for my kids. Right, Capel. That was one meeting I could still make. I was like, Dixon, I need 15 minutes for this club, and he was like, okay, whatever. But for my kids, if I have them, I'd like them to just like Ryan said, like experiment, right? Focus more on making friends, trying things you'd like instead of being stuck in one thing, and like. If they make all A's, get like great scholarships, fantastic, right? But like, I don't want you stressed out of like having that perfect, A+ in every single class. I want you to enjoy like education and enjoy the whole system, and yeah, just definitely find a couple things and try things, and be active in quite a few activities.
Yeah, I think that sometimes, and we can acknowledge that we're all South Asians in this group, right? Like academics are very important, culturally in our community, all that sort of stuff. We all went to good colleges, et cetera, like, but one thing is like, sometimes I think that we pursue so hard after like the best schools that like, we don't necessarily, one thing that I guess, let me phrase it like this instead. For me, I don't know whether I want to chase after the top 1% of schools for my kids. You know, I want them to have the opportunity to do things. I don't want them, you know, to necessarily go to a school that has 3,000 plus kids, for example. I don't want them to go to a school that's, you know, in Texas, a 6A school, maybe. You know, I want to figure out if there's other options for them where they can, you know, have the opportunity. Like I know my friend Susan from college, you know, she went to Hawkins High School in, you know, buttfuck East Texas, right? Like middle of nowhere. And you know what? She did every sport. She did every academic thing. She did every extracurricular thing. And like, I'm really jealous of her in hindsight, you know, because I'm never going to have a chance to do a lot of that stuff again. So I don't know. It's just something that I feel like I'm going to have in my mind whenever we're finally trying to make decisions about whether to have kids and what to do.
I've never heard of that town in East Texas, but I mean,
It's a beautiful place. Beautiful place.
Just don't bend over. Okay. So yeah,
I mean, I feel like the implication is that you're bending over. I don't understand the. What, are you gonna stand up and do it?
You want the full experience, right?
I feel like this topic could like go on for hours, right? Because like as someone like I went to school in Indiana, I went to school with a lot of people, went to rural schools, and a lot of people went to big schools, like in college, and it's like so drastically different. Like a lot of the people who went to smaller schools also just lived sheltered lives, and I don't know if that's a good thing either.
Sure.
So like it's just so complicated. It's such a big topic. We could talk for like 10 episodes.
Yeah. And I mean, to be clear too, right? Like I have no interest in not living in a metropolitan area, for example, right? Like I would want to, for example, I mean, I don't know if I'm going to be in Dallas for my whole life. I'd want to try to find the mid-sized suburb, right? Like actually in some ways being in Irving, right? Like being in Irving, you're in a very diverse area. The schools are fine. You know, they're not Coppell, but like they still have everything you need. I don't know. It's just something that I feel like as a prospective parent who wants my kid to have a diverse atmosphere, you know, wants my kids to be around, you know, socioeconomically diverse people. It's something that I'm definitely trying to figure out the balance between.
No, I think you hit it on the head. Like you said, you're jealous of one of your friends. Like I feel this exact same way, right? Like those are experiences you never really get in your adult life. You know, all these, we can talk about like when we play basketball together, all these extra activities I was doing. That was like a highlight of my life, right? Like doing all these things, seeing my friends all day at school, hanging out with them outside of school. Like that's everything to me. And it gets harder when you become an adult for sure. So I think it's definitely important, like having your kids, you know, be involved in a lot of things. So we'll do the rapid fire round right quick. We all went to Coppell High School. We had cafeteria food at some point at least, right? What was your favorite food? What day was it that you're looking forward to? You're like, bro, can't wait for freaking Tuesday because I got to get blank. What is it?
For me, every day it was a chocolate milk because I always brought my own lunch, so that's all I ever had from the cafeteria.
Yeah, so it's funny you mentioned chocolate milk. Like, after like cross country every morning, we would like all go and eat like breakfast together in the cafeteria. It was like during first period, so it was literally just us there, and like chocolate milk was like a big thing that like everyone would go to the thing and buy chocolate milk. Although I was like a strawberry and just plain milk drinker myself, one of those plebs.
Interesting. So you're choosing milk as well, or is there
No,
any lunch item that you liked?
Yeah, so like I don't know, cafeteria food all sucks. Like the only thing that I loved was the Otis Spunkmeyer cookies. Like that was it. That was the like one cafeteria food that like I really looked forward to.
Bro, I don't think that you realized how much my mind was blown when we went into the cafeteria in 9th grade, and we had a Chick-fil-A stand in the fucking corner of the cafeteria every day. Every single day, if we wanted, we could get Chick-fil-A. Like, and my family didn't really eat fast food growing up because obviously it's unhealthy, and that's probably the right way to treat kids is to not give them access to Chick-fil-A every single day. But holy shit, man, every single day you could go and get Chick-fil-A and fries, and that could be your meal for the day. Like that was insane to me. And the crazy thing about Chick-fil-A is that, you know, I had access to that all the way through high school, obviously. At Baylor, we had a Chick-fil-A on campus, and then also like one across the street from campus, and then another one a little bit down the road. And so like I've eaten it a ton in my life, and there has never once been a point in my life where I felt like I was tired of it. It's kind of insane.
So,
And yeah, I mean, I just think that, man.
so the Chick-fil-A stand was
Chick-fil-A is insane.
the Chick-fil-A stand was something that like I was not aware of how good it was while I was in high school. Like I was one of those kids who didn't eat enough fast food. I didn't have Chick-fil-A enough, so I didn't know how good it was.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't either, for the record, until the Chick-fil-A stand was at high school.
Question for you. I rarely ate there too, to be honest. Did they give out the sauces if you wanted some, or was it just ketchup? Because that could definitely change the thing.
Yeah,
That's probably why. Because my life changed when I went to see Chick-fil-A, and I went there for the first time like during college. I'm like, holy shit, this sauce is amazing. And now that we're thinking about it, I was like, did they give out sauce in high school?
I think that they just had typically like a box of the sandwiches, and I think that they just had ketchup, which for me, like, I mean, it's definitely good with the sauce too. I don't need the sandwiches with sauce. Like, obviously, if you get the nuggets, you need sauce, but the sandwiches, I'm fine with eating without sauce.
Definitely don't.
Yeah, I disagree, but I mean they're good without sauce, but I much prefer them with the sauce. I lived 2 years of college without a Chick-fil-A. They didn't get one in Terre Haute, Indiana, till junior year. So I went through college for 2 years with no Chick-fil-A, and it was terrible.
That's why you go to thriving metropolises like Waco, Texas, so that you can have access to fine dining.
All right. Well, yeah.
Shout out to the fast food draft that should be coming up. Chick-fil-A was my first pick, so remember that and vote for me.
Yeah, not in the original one. He definitely chose some random shit. We'll bring that up too. But yeah, so we'll get back to Chick-fil-A because that's just irritating. But I looked forward to the pasta day. That pasta was pretty damn good, and it's usually like on a Monday or Tuesday. I was like, holy shit! They had Alfredo sauce and marinara sauce. I preferred the marinara tomato sauce, and is fantastic. You mentioned the Otis Spunkmeyer. The cookies, fantastic. Sometimes they didn't have Chick-fil-A, and they'd bring out like Cluck Deluxe, and I'm like, the fuck is this? It was not that good. But yeah, CHS like has this huge ass store inside too. Probably where you guys went cross country. They had the most candies of all time. Like I remember going in there getting like Mambas and shit, and those were so good. Man, I don't know. Clearly, Ryan didn't enjoy the food that much. He just liked the milk, but I thought the pasta was just fantastic. Another quick thing I want to ask you guys. We obviously all went to elementary school. What did you guys do during recess? Like this is a question because when I went to, now they think about it, there's like everyone splits up during recess and does like their own little thing. So I'm just wondering, what exactly did you guys do during recess?
Bro.
Basketball.
That's the most dumbass question you've ever asked me. Of course I played basketball. What kind of question is that? Sometimes, when we were younger, I think it was third grade that we switched to from the kid playground to like the one that had like basketball hoops. And so before that, like I would play whatever sport they were playing basically. But yeah, come on, man. Once it hit third grade, it was over, man. Of course I was playing basketball.
You guys all played basketball every single day.
Basketball every day.
I think soccer was a big sport at Jensen Creek, but it was also basketball, so it just kind of changed based on who wanted to play what.
Okay, well, see, I went to Town Center. None of these guys did. No one played basketball at Town Center. They had the courts. The balls were like dodgeballs, really. Like, they're just really bouncy and disgusting. No one played with them. So, yeah, that's why it's interesting to me, because I played some soccer, which I never thought I would. That was a huge deal. Everyone took the swings when they first got them and never gave them up, so that was not fun. And then we ended up playing, like, tetherball, right? And like, in third grade, we used, like, our imagination. Like, I'm not dead ass. We were like thinking about Star Wars and Harry Potter and shit, and like just living in our imaginary lives, and it's fantastic. I missed recess. I thought it was really important. Worst thing was when you like lined up and went inside school, and everyone's just really stinky and gross. That was disturbing. But other than that, recess was the best.
Yeah. So, the only time that the people that I was with were using their imagination is when they tried to imagine that I didn't just give them buckets.
All right. So. In high school, with the cross country team, we would like very frequently just have days off because running is just one of those things you like have to take days off of. So it was like very frequent we would have those, and like ultimate frisbee was like the only thing we did in those off days. We would be ultimate frisbeeing it up. Now that I think about it, not really letting your body rest when you're running around chasing a frisbee. But
I was gonna say.
All right. Before we go. Obviously, we said school starting for, elementary, middle, high school, college. So what's like one piece of advice, 1 to 2 sentences you can give to anyone? Just some sage advice for the students if they're listening.
As someone who was like the least organized person in the world, become more organized, because like it completely, like I could have done and accomplished so much more when I was in school if I was organized.
I would say your school time is limited, so try to experience and challenge yourself as much as possible when you have those opportunities throughout high school and college and middle school, because you're never going to have the same opportunity, freedom, and flexibility as you do then ever again.
Yeah, for me, I think that the biggest advice that I could give is just because an individual situation doesn't go your way, just because you take one class and you don't do well in it, just because you have one teacher and you don't get along with them, don't let it discourage you from, holistically. Don't let it discourage you from trying to pursue what you want to do. Don't let it discourage you from thinking that you're great, thinking that you can accomplish things. Because, again, I mean, I was not a good student, right? I never figured it out. I mean, I graduated college with a 2.7 GPA, right? Like, it sucked. But for me, what I found out was that I was good at some very specific things, right? And one of those specific things that I was good at was writing and reporting. And the cool thing about getting out into the world is that I don't have to learn language, right? I don't have to take Spanish. I don't have to make a C in that, right? I don't have to make a C in, whatever other class. Like, I only have to do the things that I'm good at. So that's one thing that I would give as advice to students is, like, don't get discouraged just because you face some adversity. Try to push through it, and eventually you're going to get to really do what you actually want to do.
Love it. Love it. Yeah. So I wrote down, just enjoy, be open, try new things, classes, clubs, just make new friends while you can, try new, clubs, different classes you might not even think you'd be interested in, right? Like you're just at a learning phase, really. And I think that's such an important piece of your life is when you're experimenting with different things, and take it easy, like kind of Sean said, but like bounce back. Life doesn't end in middle school because some girl broke your heart, right? Like things happen. You just gotta bounce back. Things will get better. And just be open-minded about it and enjoy your time in school, because it's some of the best memories you'll hold on to later in life.
And the last thing that I'll say is that if you aren't a great student, if you don't do well in school, that doesn't mean that you can't still have a great life. It doesn't, things don't end once you leave college. Things don't end once you leave high school. You have a lot of opportunity left to prove yourself. So don't get too caught up in what happens in these micro levels. Just remember that once you get out, everybody's on the unequal playing field again.
No, all right, you guys will be fine. Just take it easy, enjoy life. If you couldn't notice, we're all wearing school colors real quick. So, I'm repping UTD colors, whoosh. You guys can do your whatever sickums and hookums and shit.
Shit happens quick. Shit happens quick. And so be ready for it. Don't think that what's happened to you before is going to define you for the rest of your life.
For sure. So, yeah, repping these school colors, enjoy school, have a great year. And until next time, we're out. See ya.